Social responsibility when managing a business unit. This is a story of a completely different nature. This is the story of somebody who has been in charge of a department, a business unit, with 300 people. And of course, when you have to lead a department with 300 people, you can consult for the social part and the human resource part of this unit, all the handbooks and all the procedures and all the things as they should be. Apart from that, there are these little things which you don't find in the handbook, but which make a lot of difference. And that's something I would like to tell you something about. If you are the boss, you're responsible, you should make sure that your unit makes a profit. Otherwise, the big bosses and the financial officers will come and say, this is a nice operation, but it has to be restructured. That's the pressure you're on. But in my opinion, this pressure should not prevent that you are human in the way you deal with the people and consistent. And of course, having indicators for the social dimension, I have presented them in one of the previous lectures, is a necessary but not a sufficient condition. These other items, I give now a couple of examples and stories. First of all, you're not their boss only, but you should show also human interest. So I developed a habit of taking interest in all the people who are working there. 25 years of marriage celebration. I was there. If people are for a longer time in hospital, you visit them. If the football team, the soccer team of this group, which is playing in the inter-industry competition, is playing again, you're there. And so on and so forth. This is highly appreciated. And this is something which is human, because in this way, you not just come across the celebrations, but also across problems. And you can contribute to solve them as an understanding employer. Know what is going on. That is walking around on the factory floor talking to people. They have direct access to you. Their bosses, their department's head are not an intermediate. You know it from first hand what is going on. The room where your secretary is sitting, because at that time, IT was not existing, so you had a secretary full-time. Change this room to a lounge where everybody can come in, tell their story, because there are also stories which they do not dare to tell to you, but they tell to the secretary. And indirectly, you know, if you have a wise secretary, they will ask you for attention for certain issues she has heard. Dealing with high potentials. Yes, we all do. And in the books and in the theory, there is a lot of stuff about that. But also deal with non-potentials. People who work there day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year, never hear anything from the management of the department. Show interest to them, value them, reward them, and this is a very thankful item to consider. Some other guys, particularly the department's head, are not as innocent. So there you have to play the game in a different way. That is, not I'm your boss, so I order you now to do this, but it's better to say, okay, now I do something for you, but you should give me something back. And if they do not stay loyal to that, then you can use your authority to insist on that. Who is responsible for safety? You can run into very complicated situations when accidents occur. The law is often not clear. The law says, on one hand, the employer is responsible because the employer is employing people. So the employer has to create safe working conditions. On the other hand, people have their own responsibilities. They work in complicated situations with complicated machines. You cannot say, okay, I'm proud of my craftsmanship, but sorry, when it comes down to safety, I have no idea. You can become aware of this when an accident occurs. Then, when an accident occurs, the world is not always nice. There's not always justice. So, because what happens, the Workers' Council is being informed, and of course they pick at you. You're responsible. How could this happen? And if you do not respond properly, in their perspective, they call the labor inspection, which is an outside authority who can stop all production operations if they see this as necessary. A guy had an accident. He was panicking. He alarmed the Workers' Council, and his wife had already called the labor inspection, because in the Netherlands everybody's entitled to do so, to say this is an unsafe situation and the employer has neglected his duties. There you stand. What to do? This was not corresponding to reality. But something came to my rescue, so to say. And that was, in view of the fact that safety issues are often unclear in the law, what you have to do is organize for all the workers you employ the so-called safety instruction, where you explain how you have to operate machines according to the rules, that you have to be aware yourself as well, and so on and so forth. That's not enough. Maybe you did it. Maybe you truthfully tried to instruct your employees to look after safety. Sometimes safety is a bit hampering smoothness of operations. So neglect is not just deliberate. Neglect is sometimes also because it's easier. Which means if you're getting when you have a safety problem in such a difficult situation, it's important that you have written proof that you have given the instructions and that people know. In this case, that happened, and in that case, there was proof that this instruction session had been given, that I as an employer had spent the time, and also the people attending such meetings were registered. It sounds like a formal approach. It isn't, because this makes clear that you're serious about this, that you did an effort to the best of your abilities. If people do not take the responsibility which is at their side, well, you can't prevent accidents, but at least it makes that in terms of accusations, in terms of other problems like stopping production by the labor inspection, you have done the right thing. This is something really serious to be addressed, because this is an unclear territory, and in this field, a lot of things happen in any production organization. What happens when disaster strikes, that's story number 11, is not occurring frequently, but it's even more severe. That is when you have to reorganize your operation. New technology is coming. In this way, through the new technology, you can make your products, the numbers you required, more efficiently. And it means that people in your organization lose their jobs. What to do? You cannot say, we stop introducing the new technology in the name of employment, because if you don't do, your bosses will force you to do so. So you cannot stop this. And it means you have to make a reorganization plan. You have to make a list of the people who lose their job. That is the first problem, because there's always a tendency to make people redundant who have the lowest education. But you should do that symmetrical, which means that the people losing their job is corresponding to the numbers, is a percentage of the numbers at all levels. That's one thing. If the people being made redundant, if that number is high enough, that reorganization plan is also to communicate it, at least in the Dutch law, to the outside world. So also to the labor unions, which used to be very strongly, to be represented very strongly in this organization. So it was the first time in my life that this department, and I also with my own name, were on the front page of the local newspaper. Simultaneously, I had to deal with the labor representative, the representative of the labor unions. Under the law, he is entitled to make a speech in the canteen and tell his view on what happened. I made a surprise for him, because I decided to go there and listen what he was saying. And it was, in fact, an anti-capitalistic rhetoric out of the, not of the 20th, but out of the 19th century. But then, after that shocking experience, at least from my perspective, I decided to invite this guy to my office. And we sat there, the two of us, with totally opposed views. But it turned out, when I tried to be a human being, he was a human being too. And we could make a deal how to handle this. And again, sometimes you need a bit of luck, because the department I'm describing was the optics department. What is the character of an optics department? high precision. At that time, when this had to take place, there was no crisis. Economy was doing pretty well. So people used to experience in high precisions could get a job elsewhere. So after that, the reorganization went smoothly. There were a couple of people who were not at high precision as that job title suggested to be. But what you can do is give them a little bit of money so they can start their own restaurant. They can cook hamburgers better than work on high precision. I still go occasionally to this hamburger place and eat one and say, hey guy, 20 years ago or 25 years ago, it's by now, we did a very good job. Well, if it would be known for the big bosses, the Philips organization that I had given during this reorganization money to people to start a hamburger restaurant, I would have problems with them as well. But up to now, they don't know. Most likely the officials from Philips looking over my shoulders are retired as well. So no problem.